Welcome to Thriving Thursday. So we've been talking about branding for a few weeks now and how to use that inside of your book journey. One of the things that happens when we start developing our brand is we look at colors, we look at the feeling our brand gives, we look at what's behind it, but we also need some signature stories. And what that means is when we develop our copy and our brand, we don't want to just tell people how good we are. We actually want to develop a story that tells a little bit about our brand, the obstacles of our brand, how we got to where we're at. And so this is super important because when we're actually story branding, we not only want to story brand our actual brand, but we want to story brand our products, we want to story brand our services. We want to have something behind it that tells people what we're really all about. So what I'm going to talk about today are the 5 signature story types that you can use to create a brand. Most of these are timeless plots. And they're timeless plots that we can use if we develop a book, if we develop a product, a service, and around our business. So one of the things that we do every time we develop a new program is we actually sit down and we talk about why that program exists. So if you go over to my landing pages on my website, JulietClark.com, and look at my actual services, you'll see that there's kind of a story and a feeling behind it. And a lot of the times it's like, wow, I was really frustrated just like you when I started out because I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know how to do this. And I wasted a lot of time and money on things I didn't need. And you're going to see a lot of that in my story because that's actually what did happen. And imagine that happen from a perspective of I have a lot of publishing experience. I have a lot of advertising and marketing experience. And still, I felt that a lot of the things I was learning were unproductive. They were difficult. And so I communicate that as part of my brand. And by the way, I'm just to let you know, I had a couple coaches who said, you will never be successful doing that. You can't tell people how hard it is. And I woke up one day and rebranded myself as I'm the truth teller in this space. So that's where all of that came from was I'm tired of people taking, $25,000, $35,000 in coaching from me and not telling me how really difficult it is. So let's get into these. The first type of story is what I call the awakening. And the awakening is a lot like a Christmas Carol, where the heroine in the story begins as sort of this flawed figure, has a limited worldview, only sees, doesn't ascribe to you don't know what you don't know. They think they know it all because of their limitless view of the world or their limited view of the world. And so over the course of this storytelling, this person begins to wake up and see more vision in the world. And that's how the story evolves. So if this is something that happened inside of your business, which believe me, it happened inside of mine to a certain extent, this is the kind of storyline that you definitely want to go with. The next is the Cinderella story, and we see a lot of this in people's copy. 6 figures to 6 months. I was destitute. I was down to my last quarter, and then all of a sudden I discovered the secret formula. This is one that I'm not quite sure is working in the marketplace like it used to. When we first started out in the digital world, 2008, 2010, there was a lot of this and there wasn't as much competition. But if you have a story to tell in that way that is credible and you can really point to the obstacles that got in your way and just not say, hey, it was down to my last quarter. And then, like I said, I discovered the secret formula and all was good, because that's not really what ever happens in a business. You might be very successful with this program, with this storytelling line. Good versus evil. So the struggle is real. This is the kind of story that is how, you set out in the marketplace to do something really good, but your competitors are evil because of the way they position something. or you started out in a place where you were competing with those evil people on their own playing ground, and then you decided to start doing your business with integrity. Good versus evil is a pretty good one, from a sense that if you're producing a movie or a fiction novel or something like that, it's definitely needed. In a business, a little bit harder to garner. Your eye on the prize. This is the quest for something bigger. If I were going to compare this to something out there, I would say like Lord of the Rings. You went out in search of a specific reward, a specific accomplishment, and even though you had all of these obstacles, you got to the place where you were going. And be sure when you're using this to mention all of those transformational points for you, because as usual with all of these stories, people don't want to hear that one day I wasn't successful and then I was super successful because I'm perfect and in between nothing happened. Because all of us know as entrepreneurs that that's not the route we take. We have really good days and we have really, really bad days. The journey. This is really probably my favorite one because I'm a huge Wizard of Oz fan. The journey is where you start out at one place, and for the Wizard of Oz, it's you start out at home and then you go out on this journey and you end up at home again with a greater level of success, a greater appreciation for what is there. And so you want to take people through that journey. A lot of times I do that as well with what I'm doing, because that journey goes up, that journey goes down, that journey sometimes gets very bizarre, like some of the stuff in the Wizard of Oz. There's good versus evil in that story as well. So this is another place where you can take people, is the journey. The journey is not to be confused with, for lack of a better word here, barfing all over people. The journey needs to be succinct so people understand exactly where you started, exactly where you went, and how you ended up in that better place back at home. Our tendency, especially when we write nonfiction books, is to just tell everybody everything. And then they're disengaged because they want to know the high points, they want to know the low points, and very little in between. All right, so as usual, you guys all know, if you're not fully building out your funnel, you're leaking revenue and clients, and that's not where we want to be. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for stopping by.